For years, everyone believed the daughter of New York's most feared mafia boss was born blind, a fragile girl hidden behind the iron gates of the Romano mansion. But when a new maid named Ava Collins arrived, she began to notice things that didn't add up. The way the girl followed light with her eyes, the way silence filled the halls like a warning. What was meant to be a simple job turned into a discovery that could destroy an empire. Because in the Romano family, blindness wasn't a tragedy. It was protection, and the truth Ava found was something the Mafia would kill to keep buried forever. Before you begin, click subscribe and tell me something about where you live. What's the weather like today? Ava Collins had just started her new job as a housemaid at the Romano mansion, one of the biggest and most feared homes in New York. Everything was large, clean, and very quiet inside. The staff did not talk much, and the rules were strict. Vincent Romano, the man who owned the house, was the leader of a powerful mafia group. Everyone feared him, even the workers. Ava tried to stay calm and do her job well, but something felt strange from the beginning. She was told to avoid certain rooms, to never ask questions, and to stay quiet. Ava found it odd that no one smiled or looked relaxed. Still, she wanted to keep her job. On her second day, she was asked to help during dinner. That's when she met Isabella Romano, the daughter of Vincent. She was only 8 years old and known to be blind since birth. During dinner, the family sat quietly around the long table. There was a big storm outside, and rain hit the windows hard. Thunder echoed across the mansion. The lights sometimes flickered, and lightning lit up the dining room for short moments. Ava stood near the wall, ready to serve when needed. She glanced at Isabella, who sat still, eating slowly. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder was followed by a bright flash of lightning. Ava clearly saw Isabella turn her head slightly in the direction of the light. No one else noticed, but Ava couldn't stop thinking about it. A blind child should not react to light like that. Ava started to feel nervous. Maybe she imagined it. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But the moment stuck in her head. Something didn't feel right, and Ava knew she had seen something important, even if she didn't fully understand it yet. Ava couldn't stop thinking about what she saw. That night, while she cleaned the kitchen, her mind kept replaying the moment when Isabella turned her head toward the lightning. It didn't make sense. The girl was supposed to be blind. That's what everyone said. That's what she was told. But Ava had seen her react to light. Could Isabella actually see? Was she pretending? And if so, why? Ava didn't want to make trouble, but her curiosity grew. She tried to ask a few gentle questions to other staff members, but they quickly changed the subject or acted like they didn't hear her. It was like there was some kind of rule about not talking. Ava started to feel watched. Every hallway seemed to have eyes. Still, she couldn't ignore her thoughts. She decided to pay closer attention to Isabella and see if there were more signs. Over the next few days, Ava stayed alert. She observed Isabella whenever she had the chance, always careful not to be obvious. The girl moved slowly like a blind person would. But once, Ava saw her avoid a chair that was in her path, without touching it first. Another time, Isabella caught a spoon that rolled off the table before it hit the floor. These were small things, but to Ava, they meant something. She was now sure that Isabella could see, or at least was not completely blind. Ava felt afraid. If this was a secret, why was it being kept? Was Vincent hiding something more serious? Ava didn't know what to do. She couldn't talk to anyone in the house. No one would believe her. Or worse, someone might tell Vincent. The mansion didn't feel like just a home anymore. It felt like a trap filled with secrets. Ava started to feel the weight of her suspicions. She lost sleep thinking about what she had seen. The more she noticed, the more she believed that something was very wrong in the Romano house. Isabella was a quiet child, but sometimes Ava caught her watching things with her eyes. Small movements, like tracking people walking by. It was subtle, but it was there. Ava also noticed that Vincent never spoke about Isabella's condition. He treated her with care, but coldly, like a business deal. Ava wondered if Isabella was being used for something, or maybe protected from something worse. The silence in the mansion felt heavier with each day. Ava began to think that the truth might be dangerous, that maybe she had seen something she wasn't supposed to see. She didn't want to get involved in Mafia problems, but now she was already deep in it, whether she wanted to be or not. One night, as Ava passed through a hallway near Isabella's room, she stopped for a moment. The door was open just a little, and she heard the girl humming a tune quietly. Ava peeked inside and saw Isabella standing near the window looking out toward the street. She wasn't using a cane or feeling her way. She just stood there, still and calm, watching the rain fall. Ava's heart raced. There was no doubt anymore. Isabella could see. That moment changed everything. Ava stepped back quietly and returned to her room, locking the door behind her. Her hands shook as she sat down. She had uncovered a secret, one that could get her into serious trouble. She didn't know why Isabella was pretending, or why the family kept it hidden, but she knew the truth now. And by knowing it, Ava had just stepped into the most dangerous part of the city, the world of forbidden truth. In the following days, Ava kept a close eye on Isabella. Every little movement the girl made seemed too exact, too perfect for someone who was supposed to be blind. She didn't bump into furniture. She walked with steady steps through the hallways. She picked up her cup without searching for it with her hands. It wasn't just luck. Ava watched her hold a spoon the right way, avoid small objects on the ground, and turn her head slightly when someone walked past. It was all too precise. Ava had worked around people with real blindness before, and this wasn't the same. Isabella was clearly acting. The problem was, Ava didn't know why. Why pretend to be blind? Who had told her to do that? She didn't dare ask anyone. The staff stayed quiet and serious. Every time Ava tried to say something, people avoided the subject. Something was definitely wrong. While Ava tried to understand the strange behavior of Isabella, she also began to notice how Vincent Romano acted. He was always busy and rarely stayed home for long. When he did, he was always surrounded by bodyguards. They followed him everywhere, even inside the house. The mood changed when he entered a room. Everyone became silent. Nobody looked him in the eyes. Ava had heard about him before. He was one of the most dangerous men in New York, leader of a feared mafia group. At first, she thought he was just distant, but now she realized he was deeply involved in something dark. Over time, the security team in the house looked more stressed. Some of them whispered in corners. Others kept checking the windows and doors, like they expected trouble. Ava could feel something was happening, something serious. It wasn't just about Isabella anymore. It was about the whole house. On the fourth day, Ava heard something that made her even more uneasy. She was walking through the upstairs hallway when she passed two of the guards talking in low voices. They didn't see her. One of them mentioned there had been a betrayal in the family. Vincent was furious. Ava kept walking like she didn't hear anything, but her heart beat faster. What betrayal? Could it be connected to Isabella? Was that why she had to pretend to be blind? That night, Isabella behaved as if nothing strange was going on. She sat at the table, ate quietly, and followed her usual routine. But Ava couldn't stop thinking. There was something fake about this whole situation. It felt like a setup, like a game that only some people knew how to play, and Ava had accidentally walked into it. She had no idea what the rules were, but it was already too late to turn back. That night, the house felt different. It was too quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. Ava had finished her chores earlier than usual. She walked down the hallway near Vincent's office and heard people talking inside. The door was almost closed, but not fully. She stopped and listened. Several male voices were speaking. Their tone was serious, like they were arguing. Ava heard phrases like, "Can't trust him," and "We need to fix this before it spreads." She knew it was risky to stay there, but she couldn't move away. Something told her this was important. Then she heard something that made her freeze. One of the voices said, "We must keep the blind girl act going no matter what." Ava's eyes widened. That was it. Proof. They were faking Isabella's blindness on purpose, and these men were doing everything they could to protect that lie. Ava had just uncovered the truth. Ava stood frozen in place. Her hands were shaking, and she could barely breathe. She had always suspected something, but now she was sure. The conversation behind the door made it clear. Isabella's blindness was a lie, and the people around her were part of it. The most terrifying part was how serious the voices sounded. It wasn't just a little secret, it was something they would protect at all costs. Ava started stepping back slowly. Her only thought was to get out of there without being seen. She didn't know what the men would do if they found out she had listened. Maybe nothing, maybe something bad. She turned toward the hallway, ready to leave, but before she could take 2 steps, she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy ones, her whole body tensed. It was too late. Someone had seen her standing there. She had made a mistake by staying too long. When she turned around, she saw Liam. He was the head of security, and everyone in the house knew not to mess with him. He was tall, strong, and always serious. Right now, he stood in the hallway, staring at her without saying a word. His face didn't show any emotion, but Ava felt cold all over. He had caught her. She knew it. Liam didn't need to ask what she was doing. It was obvious she had been listening. For a few seconds, they just stared at each other. Ava tried to act normal, like she had just been walking by, but it was useless. Liam stepped closer, slowly. His eyes were sharp. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. Ava's heart pounded. She had heard too much. The sentence from the meeting echoed in her mind. Keep the blind girl act going, no matter what. And now she was no longer just a maid. She was a witness. Ava couldn't wait any longer. She had too many questions and no one to ask. She was tired of guessing. She wanted the truth. After the tense moment with Liam in the hallway, she knew things were dangerous. But she also knew she was already involved. Ava had seen too much. She had heard the conversation. She had watched Isabella move like someone who could see. Now she needed proof. That afternoon, the house was quiet. Most of the staff were outside doing chores, and Vincent was gone. Ava found Isabella sitting alone in the living room, playing with blocks. Ava sat across from her, acting calm. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small flashlight she had taken from the supply closet. With her hand shaking, she turned it on and pointed the light directly at Isabella's eyes. In that instant, Isabella blinked quickly and turned her head away. Ava's breath caught in her throat. There was no doubt now. Isabella had reacted to the light. A blind child wouldn't blink like that. Ava stayed silent for a moment, staring at the girl. Isabella looked nervous. Her hands stopped moving. Slowly, she raised her head and whispered, "I can see." Her voice was soft, like she was scared to say the words out loud. Ava leaned in, trying to stay calm. "Why are you pretending?" she asked. Isabella hesitated, then replied, "Daddy told me to, since I was a baby. He said it's the only way to keep me safe." Ava didn't understand. "Safe from what?" she asked. Isabella looked down and explained that her father had enemies, people who wanted revenge. Some of them had sworn to hurt his family. So Vincent made everyone believe Isabella was blind, hoping it would make her less of a target. It was a secret her whole life. Ava tried to stay calm, but she felt a storm inside her. Everything finally made sense. The careful movements, the fear in the house, the guards everywhere. This secret was bigger than she thought. Isabella had never known a normal life. She was forced to act blind just to stay alive. Ava couldn't believe how serious it was. She wanted to ask more, but Isabella looked frightened. "Daddy said if anyone finds out, bad people will come," she said. Ava didn't know what to say. She felt sorry for the girl, but she also felt angry. No child should live like that. Before Ava could respond, she heard a loud bang from outside. Then another. Her body froze. Shouting started down the hallway. Gunshots. It wasn't a drill. Something was happening. Ava jumped up and grabbed Isabella's hand. The girl was shaking. Ava didn't have time to think. The house was under attack. The sound of gunfire echoed through the halls. Windows shattered in nearby rooms. Ava ducked down and pulled Isabella with her. Men were shouting in Italian, and heavy boots pounded the wooden floors. Ava crawled behind a couch, trying to stay out of sight. Isabella was breathing fast, her face pale. "Don't let them take me," she whispered. Ava held her close. She knew she wasn't trained for this, but she had no choice. She had to act. She peeked around the corner and saw two men dressed in black running past with rifles. It wasn't just a small attack. This was a planned invasion. Ava had no idea if Vincent was still alive or if the guards could hold them off. Her only job now was to protect Isabella. She thought about the secret. If these men knew the truth, they might be here for the girl. Ava couldn't let that happen. She guided Isabella through the side hallway, moving quickly but carefully. Ava remembered a storage room near the back of the house, one with a heavy door and no windows. It might be safe. Along the way, she saw blood on the floor and a broken painting frame. Someone had been shot nearby. Isabella stayed close, holding Ava's hand tightly. The gunfire continued, but it was in another part of the house now. Ava reached the storage room and pushed the door open. They stepped inside. She closed the door gently and locked it. There was no light, but it was quiet. Ava crouched beside Isabella and whispered, "We're going to be okay." She didn't know if it was true, but she had to stay calm. She could hear her own heartbeat. This wasn't just about a secret anymore. This was life or death. She had to keep Isabella hidden, no matter what. As she sat there in the dark, Ava realized something had changed. Just a few days ago, she was a maid, hired to clean floors and serve food. Now she was the only person standing between Isabella and a group of armed attackers. She didn't know if the police would come. She didn't know if Vincent was still alive. But she knew one thing: she couldn't give up. Ava had discovered the truth, and that truth came with danger. But it also gave her a purpose. Isabella wasn't just a strange girl in a rich house anymore. She was a child in real danger, and Ava was the only one who could protect her. The noises outside grew louder again. Doors slammed. Men shouted. Ava tightened her grip on Isabella's hand. No one else could help now. She wasn't just a housemaid anymore. She was the girl's only chance to survive. The mansion was in complete chaos. Shouts, gunfire, and broken glass filled the air. Ava held Isabella tightly as they moved quickly through the hallway, trying to avoid the sounds of fighting. The walls shook with every gunshot. Furniture was knocked over, and smoke started to rise from the back rooms. The guards were trying to fight off the attackers, but Ava knew they couldn't last long. She had only one thought in her head: get Isabella out. Every second counted. She remembered Liam mentioning once that the house had an old basement from the time of Prohibition. Maybe there was something down there, some way to escape. She pulled Isabella down a back stairwell leading to the lower level. It was dusty and dark, with cobwebs on the walls. The lights barely worked. Ava could still hear the fighting upstairs. She had no idea what they would find below, but there was no choice. They reached the basement. It was cold and quiet, far from the violence above. Ava moved quickly, searching the area. Old shelves, tools, and crates were everywhere. Then she noticed a section of the wall that looked different, older, with cracks around it. She ran her hand along the edge and felt a small metal latch. She pulled it. A piece of the wall moved with a loud creak, revealing a narrow tunnel. Ava's heart raced. It was real. She stepped inside, pulling Isabella behind her. The tunnel was damp and dark. The air smelled like earth and metal. Water dripped from the ceiling. Isabella squeezed Ava's hand, scared but silent. Ava explained in a whisper that this was a secret passage, used a long time ago when alcohol was illegal. It connected to the city's old underground canals. They had to move fast. Gunshots still echoed through the floor above. The danger wasn't over yet. As they hurried down the tunnel, they heard more yelling coming from behind. Ava knew the attackers might follow them, especially if they discovered the hidden passage. She couldn't let that happen. The tunnel twisted and turned, with old bricks and wooden beams holding it up. In some places, water covered their shoes. Ava kept going, holding Isabella close and trying not to trip. Every few steps, she turned her head, listening for any sign of someone behind them. The gunfire above had started to fade, but it wasn't gone. Suddenly, a voice came through Ava's radio. It was Liam. "We're heading to the lower access point. Vincent's alive. Meet us at the split," he said. Ava felt a bit of hope. If Liam and Vincent were alive, maybe there was still a plan. She picked up the pace. Her legs ached, but she kept running. She couldn't stop now. They had to survive this. At the next intersection in the tunnel, Ava saw flashlight beams. She froze until she heard Liam's voice again. He came around the corner with two men behind him. His shirt was torn and his arm was bleeding, but he looked focused. "Come on, we don't have much time," he said. Ava followed him as they continued down another path. After a few more turns, they reached a ladder leading up. Liam climbed first and pushed open a hatch. They came up into another part of the mansion grounds, behind an old storage building. There, leaning against a stone wall, was Vincent. He had blood on his face and his jacket was ripped, but he was alive. His eyes locked onto Isabella immediately. She ran to him, and he pulled her into a tight hug. Then he looked at Ava. There was no anger, no threats. Only a strange, quiet respect. Something had changed. Vincent's voice was lower than usual, slower too. He looked straight at Ava and said, "You found the tunnel. You kept her safe." Ava didn't know what to say. She had prepared herself for punishment. She had broken rules, heard secrets, and gotten involved in things far beyond her job. But instead of rage, Vincent gave her a small nod. "You did more than my men," he said. "You saved my daughter." Liam watched silently, standing beside them. Ava stood frozen for a second. "I only did what I had to," she said honestly. Vincent sighed and looked around. "They'll be back," he said. "This was just the beginning." Then he turned to Liam. "Take them to the safe house. We'll rebuild from there." Ava knew things would never be the same again. She had crossed a line, stepped into a world of crime and secrets, but she had also earned their trust. As they started walking again, Vincent said one more thing that Ava would never forget. He looked at her with serious eyes and said, "You saved my family. And now you're part of it." Those words hit her harder than anything else that night. She was no longer just the maid. She had seen too much, risked too much, and done too much to go back to a normal life. She had become something else, someone with a role in the Romano family. Ava didn't know what that meant exactly, but it was clear that everything had changed. The house behind them was broken. Bodies would be counted. Lies would continue. But a new chapter had started. One where she wasn't on the outside anymore. She looked down at Isabella, still holding her hand. This child, once a mystery, now fully trusted her. Ava knew one thing for sure. She couldn't walk away now. 3 days after the attack on the mansion, everything was different. Ava, Isabella, and Vincent were now staying in a luxury hotel in Manhattan. The place was huge, clean, and full of expensive furniture. There were guards on every floor, some in suits and some pretending to be hotel staff. Vincent was calm, but his eyes were cold. He had been quiet since the escape, but now he was ready to act. In the large meeting room with maps and photos spread across a table, he explained his plan. The men behind the attack would be attending a charity ball held at a famous art gallery. They were high-ranking figures, known in public as businessmen, but connected to rival mafia groups. Vincent decided to use Isabella as bait to lure them out. It was risky, but it had to be done. Ava was assigned to protect the girl. She didn't get to say no. The night of the ball arrived quickly. Ava helped Isabella get ready, brushing her hair and making sure her dress was perfect. Isabella didn't seem nervous, but Ava could tell the girl understood this wasn't just another fancy party. The event was full of rich people, celebrities, politicians, and powerful families. Expensive suits, long dresses, cameras, and music filled the space. A live orchestra played soft music, and waiters carried trays of food and champagne. Ava stayed close to Isabella at all times. Her eyes moved constantly, scanning the room. Vincent had planted undercover guards around the building, but Ava didn't know who was who. Her job was simple: stay alert, keep Isabella safe, and wait for the trap to close. The girl was told to smile and play her part. Ava hated that she was being used as bait, but Vincent had made it clear. This was the only way to catch their enemies. As the night went on, the party continued without trouble. People danced, laughed, and posed for pictures. Ava stayed focused. She kept her hand near the small taser hidden in her dress. Every few minutes, she checked the corners, the balconies, the exits. Then, something changed. Across the room near the bar, Ava saw 3 men in dark suits. They weren't drinking or laughing. They were watching Isabella. One of them leaned toward the other and whispered something. Then they looked again at the little girl. Ava's heart raced. She moved a bit closer, keeping Isabella behind her. The tallest of the 3 men reached into his jacket slowly. That was enough for Ava to act. She gave a quick signal, a hand motion Vincent had taught her. Before the man could pull out the gun, chaos exploded around them. Armed security, dressed like guests, moved in from all directions. Shouts filled the room. One of the attackers tried to run. Another pulled out a weapon, but was tackled before he could fire. The 3rd man raised his hands, realizing it was over. In seconds, the ball turned into a trap. Guests screamed and dropped their drinks, backing away. Some ran for the exits. Security teams took full control. They had everything planned. The doors were locked, and no one could get in or out. Ava grabbed Isabella's hand and moved her to a corner behind a statue. The girl was shaken but safe. But the music had stopped. People were frozen in fear, unsure of what had just happened. Then, walking in through the center doors, came Vincent. He wore a black suit, calm as always, and stepped over broken glasses and plates without blinking. He looked at the captured men and smiled coldly. "They came for my daughter," he said, "and found hell instead." His men were silent but efficient. The 3 suspects were taken out of the ballroom one by one. The guests had no idea what was really going on. Some thought it was a robbery. Others thought it was a terrorist threat. But Ava now understood the full picture. This had never been a normal ball. It was a setup. From the beginning, Vincent had known his enemies would come. He had picked the perfect time and place to trap them. He let them believe they had the upper hand, but he was always one step ahead. Ava looked at him differently now. He wasn't just a mafia boss. He was a planner, a strategist, and someone who used fear like a tool. And he had trusted her, a maid, to protect the most important person in his life. Ava didn't know why, but she had done it. As the guests were escorted out and the room cleared, Ava remained still, holding Isabella close. She looked at Vincent, who walked over slowly. "You did good," he said. "They almost reached her, but you stopped them in time." Ava nodded, still processing everything. "You knew this would happen?" she asked. Vincent smiled again, but not kindly. "Of course. They would never miss a chance to come after her, but I wanted them to. I needed them to. Ava didn't speak. There was nothing to say. Vincent looked around at the mess and added, "This was just the beginning. There are more." Then, looking directly at her, he said, "You're with us now. You understand how this world works." Ava nodded. The truth was clear. She had crossed the line long ago, and tonight proved it. Vincent had used his daughter as bait, and he had turned a ballroom into a battlefield. Weeks had passed since the attack and the trap at the Manhattan Ball. The Romano mansion was now fully repaired. New walls were painted, broken glass replaced, and bullet holes patched. But the biggest change was security. Guards were posted at every entrance, day and night. Cameras were installed in every hallway, every corner, even outside near the garden. It didn't look like just a home anymore. It looked like a fortress. No one could come in or out without being seen. Everyone followed new routines. The staff worked in silence, and the fear of another attack never fully went away. Isabella walked freely through the house now. She no longer had to pretend. She no longer acted blind. Her eyes followed people, her steps were confident. She was not just the daughter of Vincent Romano anymore. She was the future of the family, and everyone knew it. The house felt different now, more serious. Ava had changed too. She no longer cleaned the floors or served meals. Vincent gave her a new role, personal assistant and full-time protector of Isabella. She had a room near Isabella's, access to all floors, and even held a key to the family's private wing. Guards nodded when she walked past. Some of the older staff whispered behind her back, surprised at how quickly she had risen, but no one questioned it out loud. They knew Ava had saved Isabella's life, and in the Romano world, that meant everything. Ava was always with the girl, walking her to private lessons, helping her with homework, and watching every visitor with care. Vincent trusted her completely. She received special orders, private meetings, and learned about business matters that once had nothing to do with her. Ava followed all of it. She didn't always understand the full picture, but she listened, learned, and kept quiet. That was the rule. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Vincent called Ava into his office. It was just the two of them. He opened a drawer and pulled out a small black box. He placed it on the table and pushed it toward her. "Open it," he said. Ava did. Inside was a silver ring. The Romano family crest was carved on the top, an eagle, a sword, and a crown. The design was old and heavy. "This means loyalty," Vincent said, staring at her. "And loyalty, Ava, doesn't break." "Not ever." Ava nodded, holding the ring, unsure what to say. She understood. This was not just a thank you gift, it was a symbol. She was part of the family now, with all the weight that came with it. Power, yes, but also responsibility. She couldn't leave, couldn't betray, couldn't back away. The ring felt heavy in her hand. It was more than jewelry. It was a promise and a trap. As the days passed, Ava wore the ring every day. People noticed. Some guards nodded in approval. Others looked away. Isabella asked about it once, and Ava simply said, "It means I'm here for good." Vincent began involving her in more decisions. He trusted her to deliver messages, to sit in private dinners, to review documents. Ava wasn't trained for this life, but she learned fast. She watched, she listened, and she adapted. Still, she often thought about the past, how she had only come to the mansion looking for a simple job. That version of herself was gone now. The person who stood at Isabella's side today was someone else entirely. Sometimes she wondered if she had a choice anymore. Could she leave if she wanted to? Probably not, but a part of her didn't want to. For the first time in her life, she felt like she had a role, a purpose. That night, a special dinner was held. Only close family and trusted members attended. The long dining table was filled with food, wine, and quiet conversations. Isabella sat next to Vincent. Ava stood behind her as usual, But this time she was invited to sit. Vincent pointed to the chair beside Isabella and said, "Join us." Everyone went silent for a second, then nodded. Ava sat. She didn't say much, but her presence at the table said everything. After the meal, Vincent raised his glass and stood. His voice was calm but strong. "To family," he said. Everyone raised their glasses. Ava followed, lifting her glass and meeting Vincent's eyes across the table. That short moment meant more than a long speech. She wasn't a guest. She wasn't a servant. She was part of them now. Whether she liked it or not, she had crossed a line, and there was no going back. Ava looked around the table as people drank and returned to their quiet talk. She noticed how nothing was really casual in that house. Every smile had a reason. Every move had a purpose. Isabella leaned toward her and whispered something about dessert, smiling like any normal girl. But Ava knew better. Behind that smile was someone being shaped to lead one of the most dangerous families in New York, and beside her sat a woman who was once a maid and now held the family crest on her finger. Ava thought about the future, what it would look like, who she would become. She knew this world didn't let people walk away easily, and it didn't forget. As she took another sip of her drink, Vincent looked at her one more time and nodded slowly. Ava nodded back. In that house, no one left the same, not even her, especially not her. And that's a wrap. I'm so glad you stayed with us all the way to the end. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the story and tell us which part you liked the most or the least. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. See you in the next one.